Hi, I'm Ron Bateman, the Sheriff of Anne Arundel County. Welcome to your Anne Arundel's Most Wanted program, a program where we showcase wanted criminals, highlight open cases, and look to you for tips. You, concerned citizens that share my same goal, and that's keeping our communities safe. You'd be proud to know that your calls have allowed us to put handcuffs on thousands of criminals. So sit back, set your DVR, or grab a pen and paper, and help do your part in catching criminals. You're watching Anne Arundel's Most Wanted.
Now it's my pleasure to introduce Mark Lemansky. He's the new Public Information Officer for the Anne Arundel County Police Department. Welcome back to the show, Mark.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Who'd you bring for us?
We have three today. The first one is Keon Lamont Martin. He's a 19-year-old black male with black hair and brown eyes. He's 5 feet 10 inches tall, 180 pounds, with a date of birth of June 12, 1997. He resides at 1839 Arwell Court in Severn, Maryland. On January 2, 2017, at 11 a.m., officers responded for the report of a domestic assault. Officers met with the victim's father, who told officers that he was outside his home when he heard his 19-year-old daughter inside the house arguing with Martin. The father then went into the house and saw Keon Martin on top of his daughter, hitting her in the face with his fist. The father pulled Keon Martin off of his daughter, at which time Martin pointed a black handgun at the father and threatened to shoot him. Officers filed for charges against Martin, who currently has active warrants for first and second degree assault. The second individual is DeAndre Earl Franklin. He is a 29-year-old black male with black hair and brown eyes. He is 5 feet 11 inches tall, 160 pounds, with a date of birth of September 10, 1987. His last known address was on Highland Drive in Glen Burnie. Franklin is known to operate a gold or silver Cadillac with Maryland registration 4CL2273. On November 21, 2016, officers responded for an assault at a Wendy's restaurant at 6910 Ritchie Highway in Glen Burnie. The victim and his friend went to the Wendy's to meet with two individuals who were known to them. During that meeting, the victim's friend was assaulted, and when the victim tried to intervene, one of the men withdrew a black handgun and pointed it at the victim, telling him to mind his own business. The victim and his friend were able to escape the attack and call police. An exhaustive investigation resulted in the identification of Franklin as the individual who threatened the victim with the handgun. Officers filed for charges against Franklin, who currently has active warrants for witness retaliation, assault, drug possession, and handgun possession. The third individual is Daryl DeBauchet Peace. He is an 18-year-old black male with black hair and brown eyes. He is 5 feet 10 inches tall, 160 pounds, with a date of birth of June 13, 1998. His last known address is 1717 Mead Village Circle in Severn. On January 24, 2017, at 7:08 p.m., officers responded to a Safeway grocery store in Hanover for a stabbing that had just occurred. Upon arrival at the parking lot of the Safeway, officers located a juvenile male suffering from stab wounds to his back. The investigation revealed that the juvenile male had been involved in an argument which later became physical. As the victim and suspect began fighting, the victim felt a sharp pain in his back and realized he had been stabbed. The suspect fled from the area and the victim called for help. As a result of a thorough investigation, detectives were able to identify Daryl Peace as the person who stabbed the juvenile. Officers filed for charges against Peace, who currently has an active warrant for attempted second-degree murder.
Folks, you know the drill. If you know the whereabouts of any of those individuals, do not approach them. Instead, call that number on the screen, 410-222-1490 or 911, 24 hours a day. Keep those calls coming in, because your tips are definitely paying off. Mark, thanks a lot,
Sheriff.
buddy. And it's my pleasure to introduce once again another regular guest on our show, Corporal Amy Megath from the Annapolis Police Department. Welcome back to the show, Amy.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And who did you bring for us?
I've got three today. The first one is Ramiro Rodriguez Manzanares. He's a Hispanic male. His date of birth is July 27th of 1969. He's 5 foot 4 inches tall, weighing 160 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. His last known address was at 220 Hilltop Lane in Annapolis. He has one open warrant for first-degree rape, first-degree sex offense, first-degree assault, and several related charges. This warrant is in reference to an ongoing sexual assault and rape that was reported to the police. A juvenile victim reported that Manzanares had been assaulting her for 3 years. At the time, Manzanares lived with the juvenile victim. The officer obtained this arrest warrant for Manzanares, but he fled the area before he could be located. Second suspect is Milton Lee Ford. He's a African-American male, date of birth of August 7th, 1965. He's 5 foot 5 inches tall, weighing 167 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. His last known address was 1227 Tyler Avenue in Annapolis. He has a warrant for second-degree assault and malicious destruction of property. An adult female victim reported to police that she was a victim of domestic violence. She told officers that her boyfriend, Milton Ford, assaulted her. They were in a verbal argument about their relationship when Ford grabbed her by the neck and began to strangle her. Ford grabbed her by the shirt, ripping it, and threw her down. He pinned her down and continued strangling her to the point where she could not breathe. When the victim's sister entered the home and Ford stopped strangling the victim, Ford left the home. The victim had several bruises and welts on her neck. The officer obtained this arrest warrant for assault second degree for Ford. And the third suspect is William Lee Stevens. He's a Caucasian male. His date of birth is April 18th, 1994. He's 5 foot 10 inches tall, weighing 125 pounds, with brown hair and green eyes. His last known address is 12807 Bellhurst Lane in Bowie. He has a bench warrant for failing to appear for a trespassing charge. This charge stems from an incident on September 16th, 2016 at 2:15 p.m. Officers from the Annapolis Police Department responded to 701 Newtown Drive near the fence line of Crystal Spring Farm Road for suspicious activity. The officers met with a private security guard for the community who located Stevens and another suspect in the woods. Stevens told officers he was walking through the woods to purchase illegal drugs. Stevens was arrested for trespassing on posted property. Stevens failed to appear in court on this charge, and this warrant was issued.
Very good, folks. You know the whereabouts of any of those people Amy just described. Please call that number, 410-222-1490, 911, 24 hours a day. Keep the calls coming in. Tips are definitely paying off. Amy, thank you so much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And now for another regular guest on our show, Detective Sergeant Ed Eicher from the Maryland State Police Glen Burnie Barrack. Welcome back to the show, Ed.
Thank you, sir.
Who'd you bring for us?
We have 3 today. First one is Jasmine Nicole Johnson. She was born July 12th, 1993, last known address of Tyler Avenue in Annapolis. On September 20th of 2016, a traffic stop was conducted in the Annapolis area on a white Kia Optima with Maryland registration. On approach, the driver was identified by troopers, and the driver was immediately identified with marks on his arms and neck, notified as track marks from drug injections. The vehicle contained 3 other occupants to include Ms. Johnson. During the stop, Johnson was found to be nodding off during questioning, which is a strong indicator of recent drug use. Due to the observations, a canine scan was requested and completed, which had a positive alert. Troopers completed a search of the vehicle where numerous items of controlled and dangerous substances and paraphernalia were located. As a result of the search and the seizure of the drug items and Johnson's behavior, she was arrested for possession and charged accordingly. Due to this arrest, Johnson now has an active bench warrant for failing to comply with her probation terms from a previous arrest for CDS possession. Number 2 is Catherine Marie Beach. She was born March 13th, 1997, and last known address either of Jumpers Hole Road in Savannah Park or Cherry Grove Avenue in Annapolis. In June of 2015, a traffic stop was conducted in the Annapolis area where Beach was a passenger. During the stop, Beach, along with other occupants in the vehicle, showed signs of criminal activity occurring within the vehicle. A canine scan was requested and completed, which had a positive alert. As a result, the vehicle and occupants were searched, where numerous items of drug paraphernalia were located inside Beach's purse. These items indicated the use of oxycodone being crushed and snorted. Beach was subsequently arrested for CDS possession and charged accordingly. Due to this arrest, Beach has an active bench warrant for failing to comply with her probation terms as a result of an earlier conviction for CDS possession. And lastly is a Mr. Jermaine Marshawn Brittingham, born July 9th, 1990, and last known address of Oak Manor Drive in Glen Burnie. On December 19, 2016, troopers attempted to stop Mr. Brittingham for a speeding violation while in an active construction zone. Brittingham was driving a blue Chevrolet Cobalt with Maryland registration. Troopers began to attempt to stop the vehicle, where he decided he would elude and began to speed away at speeds of above 100 miles an hour in various different speed zones. After entering into a second construction zone at high speeds, the pursuit was canceled for the safety of the public. However, troopers were able to achieve the registration from the vehicle and responded to the owner's residence. The owner was able to provide information on who was driving the vehicle and their location. The person identified was Mr. Brittingham. Currently, an active arrest warrant is on file for Brittingham, charging him with numerous traffic violations.
Once again, folks, you know the whereabouts of any of those individuals. Do not approach them. Call that number, 410-222-1490-911, 24 hours a day. Ed, thanks a lot, buddy.
Thanks, sir.
And now for those subjects wanted by the Anne Arundel County Sheriff's Office. Let's see. Our first subject, that is going to be Levi Gabriel Flores. Now, Flores currently has 4 open warrants. On October 3rd, 2016, the first warrant was issued for violating the terms of his probation for a prior assault conviction. Court documents state Flores failed to report as ordered and tested positive for cocaine. On October 4th, the second warrant was issued, violation of probation again, for a prior theft under $1,000 conviction. On October 5th, the third, also VOP, for another theft under $1,000 conviction. And on October 6th, the fourth violation of probation warrant was issued. Same violations for yet another theft under $1,000 conviction. So today we are looking for Levi Gabriel Flores, who's a 20-year-old white male with a date of birth of April 25th of 1996. He's 5 foot 6 inches tall, weighs 130 pounds, and has black hair and brown eyes. His last known address is 908 Primrose Road, apartment 102 in Annapolis. Now, our next subject, that is going to be Joshua William Martin. Martin currently has 2 open warrants. The first was issued on November 30th, 2016, after county police responded to the area of Holly Hill Drive and Topanga Place in Crofton for the report of a shooting. Upon arrival, multiple witnesses reported that Joshua Martin was in the driver's seat of a vehicle with another male who was seated in the front passenger seat. Martin was holding a handgun in his left hand when it went off. The bullet struck the front seat passenger in the left leg. Prior to the shot being fired, Joshua Martin was arguing with the victim about $150 Martin was owed. Martin stated, quote, "How long until I get my money, or are we fighting?" Question mark, end of quote. Martin then pulled the handgun, pointed at it at the victim's leg, and pulled the trigger. The victim was transported to shock trauma for treatment, where county police collected additional information and evidence. Now, officers applied for charges to include assault, attempted murder, handgun in vehicle and on person, and reckless endangerment. This warrant was issued as a result. The second warrant for Martin was for violating the terms of his probation on a prior robbery conviction. You probably guessed that the new firearms-related charges are driving the violation of probation, example, obeying all laws, and you would be correct. So today, we are looking for Joshua William Martin, who's a 19-year-old black male with a date of birth of April 16th of 1997. He's 5 foot 3 inches tall, weighs 150 pounds, and has brown hair and brown eyes. His last known address is 1792 Crownsville Road in Crownsville, Maryland. Our third subject, that is going to be Charles Allen Fry, Jr. Now, Fry Jr. currently has 4 open warrants. On December 12th of 2016, he failed to appear for court for a CDS possession of paraphernalia charge. As a result, a warrant was issued for him. On December 22nd, 2016, he violated the terms of his probation on a prior CDS possession, not marijuana conviction. Fry failed to report as ordered, failed to obey all laws, failed to pay fines, and failed to abstain from alcohol, illegal substances, and abusive use of any prescription drug. Another warrant was issued for that. And on January 9th, 2017, he failed to appear for court on his prior CDS possession of administration equipment charge, and another warrant was issued. On January 20th of 2017, he failed to appear for court on his prior charging less than $1,000 on another credit card case. Another warrant was issued. So today, we are looking for Charles Allen Fry Jr., who is a 21-year-old white male with the date of birth of January 17th, 1996. He's 6 feet tall, weighs 160 pounds, and has brown hair and brown eyes. His last known address is 229B Street in Lothian. And our last subject, that will be Devion Navarro Dade. Dade has one open warrant for assault, reckless endangerment, and use of a dangerous weapon with intent to injure another. On December 14th of 2016, County Police responded to the 300 block of Brockbridge Road in Laurel for a family violence call. Upon arrival, they met with a resident who stated she had been assaulted by her son, Devion Navarro Dade. The two had engaged in an argument that escalated to a physical altercation. The victim reported Devion struck her in the face with his fist, knocking her out momentarily. When she came to, he was standing over her holding a kitchen knife. Devion then held the knife right up to her face and screamed, quote, "I'll kill you, you bitch," end of quote. The victim backed away from Devion in fear for her life, and he fled out of the front door prior to police arriving. At the time of the report, the victim had visible swelling under her left eye and a cut on her cheek. Unbelievable. So today we're looking for Devion Navarro Dade. He's a 20-year-old black male with a date of birth of July 17th, 1996. He's 5 foot 8 inches tall, weighs 150 pounds, and has black hair and brown eyes. His last known address is 314 Brockbridge Road in Laurel. Remember, folks, you know the whereabouts of any of those individuals. Do not approach them. And I'm sorry, I sound like a broken record every single month, but it's important for your safety. Instead, call that number on the screen, 410-222-1490 or 911 24 hours a day. Now, folks, we're going to take a quick break. We come back. Colonel Rick Tabor, second in command at my office, is going to sit on set with me, and we're going to talk to you and educate our public about the arrest warrants in Anne Arundel County. So stay tuned.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can stop to make sure someone is okay.
We can warn someone when their drink isn't safe.
And disrupt the situation.
We can
get someone the cab.
Or walk them home safely.
We can make campuses safer for our friends.
Our roommates.
Our classmates. Our fellow human beings.
We cannot be bystanders.
We can intervene.
It's on us.
all of us.
Learn how and take the pledge at itsonus.org.
Welcome back from the break, and with me is a guest that's been on our show several times, second in command at the Sheriff's Office, my buddy, Colonel Rick Tabor. Welcome back to the show, brother.
Thanks, Sheriff. Glad to be here.
So Rick and I are doing this segment to educate the public about outstanding arrest warrants that exist in Anne Arundel County. You always hear the word backlog, and it's always put in a negative connotation when you hear about it, and it causes, I think, unnecessary fear in a lot of the public. So I think our mission today is to try to allay those fears a little bit and educate them about what the number of arrest warrants really represent.
Yeah, what we did, we did a study of all the warrants that we have, and you'll be curious to see that the breakdown with the FTA warrants, also known as bench warrants, are over 70% of the total that we have.
And if for those public that aren't familiar with the term FTA, we're talking about failures to appear. People that just do not show up for court, which is completely out of our control. So like you said, it accounts for about 70% of our warrants. Now currently, we have 10,900 open warrants. Correct. But understand that 70%, over 7,000 of those 10,900 warrants are for people who did not show up for court.
Yeah, it's closer to 7,500. And of those 7,500 warrants, and again, this is people that just didn't go to court. Those 7,500 warrants, 300 or so are felonies, the rest are misdemeanors.
So we're talking about the majority of those are for people who didn't show up for court for a misdemeanor offense, such as a traffic violation, driving on a suspended license or revoked license. They didn't show up for it, so hence a failure to appear warrant was issued. What are some of the misdemeanor crimes that we're
Or
talking
perhaps a
about?
destruction of property or a minor theft charge.
Right.
Shoplifting, something like that.
So they didn't show up for court and a bench warrant was issued. Now that's obviously completely out of our control, something that we cannot try to eliminate it all, but we'll talk later about a plan that you and I have put together to try to eliminate those FTA warrants.
But when you talk about it's not out of our control, we also did a study recently. In the last 3 years, the increase in FTAs, those people not going to court on their scheduled court date, therefore a warrant is issued for them, they've increased dramatically from 4,100 in 2014 up to 6,600 just last year.
And that's a 37% increase in failure to appear warrants in a 3-year period.
Correct.
That is huge.
It is.
And we need to do something to try to curb that. And like you and I were talking offset, that we in Anne Arundel County have about 7,500 failure to appear warrants. Can you imagine what counties like that border us, Prince George's County and Baltimore City, what their FTA warrants must be? Now, Prince George's County has roughly 36,000 open warrants, and I bet of those, I bet at least 25,000 are for failure to appear.
Yeah, I bet you across the board throughout the state, I bet the average is around 70%. Yeah.
That's huge. And hopefully this new program that we are going to try to introduce and pilot in Anne Arundel County will have some kind of impact on that. Now, let's talk about some of the FTA warrants that we have that we can do no more with.
We've had over 1,500 FTA warrants out there where all the leads have been exhausted. In other words, our deputies, the folks under the command of Lieutenant Gilbert Duran, who's out here, our deputies have gone out to the home several times. They've been to their previous place of employment. They've done credit checks. They've done everything. The person's in the wind. We can't find him. So it's over 1,500 there.
And you can only spend so much time on these misdemeanor failure to appear warrants because, as I've told the audience many times before, we prioritize our warrants as they come in. The most serious felonies are addressed first and you go on down the line in prioritization. Now, about 675 of the failure to appear misdemeanor warrants are outside of our jurisdiction. For example, they may be in Virginia, Pennsylvania, South Carolina. And because they're misdemeanor warrants, they do not account towards extradition. So it's not a situation where we can send something to North Carolina. There's a warrant for Joe Smith for destruction of property, failure to appear on destruction of property charge. He or she cannot be extradited back for that kind of charge. So we have to literally wait until they one day, hopefully, show up in Anne Arundel County and make that arrest.
Correct. And those jurisdictions aren't going to prioritize getting one of our folks on a misdemeanor warrant where it's not going to be where extradition is feasible. I mean, these local jurisdictions, be it in North Carolina, Pennsylvania, what have you, or even Prince George's or Baltimore counties, they have their own priorities that they have to deal with too. And a misdemeanor warrant, a misdemeanor FTA warrant coming out of Anne Arundel is going to be very, very low on their priority.
Now, one of the things that I don't think we even said right in the very beginning is, I got to say, and I say this to everybody, we live in a very safe county. I've lived here my entire life. I've been a victim of crimes before, of some thefts of motorcycles when I was younger. But we live in a safe county, but the number of FTA warrants is so large, people have no idea how many new warrants we get every single month in the sheriff's office.
Well, you were surprised.
Yeah. So what this is 2 reams of paper. Each ream holds 500 sheets. So in Anne Arundel County, every single month, we roughly get 1,000 or more brand new arrest warrants that our limited number of deputies have to serve.
Right.
Now, on that note, you and I are both fishermen. We like to fish. We know that the more hooks you have in the water, the more likely you are to catch a fish. And in this case, someone that's wanted is the fish. So let's talk about the various hooks that we have in the water that you and I put in place since we've been in office to catch someone that's wanted.
Well, of course, the most obvious hook in the water is our deputies out there working all the time, out in all the elements, holidays, weekends, nights, everything. They're out busting it and getting it done. And when you lock somebody up, it's not a 2-minute process. You have to take them for booking. They have to go to the court commissioner, things like that. So it's not you lock them up and you're back on the street in 10 minutes. It takes hours sometimes.
And as we know, a new law was put in effect over a year ago now that now requires us to allow someone that we've arrested to appear with an attorney, and that meeting prior to going to the commissioner normally lasts 50 minutes to an hour. So again, another bottleneck in our system that keeps us from serving a lot of arrest warrants during the course of a day.
Prior to the Richmond decision is what you're referring to. When we would take a defendant to the commissioner's office prior to that, the hearing would be about 20 minutes. We'd be there for about 20 minutes. Now, it's about an hour. So as you can see, time drag, where we might maybe I could lock up 3 people in one day. Now it might be down to 2, it might be down to 1. You know what I mean? Not to mention, when the other jurisdictions do pick up somebody on one of our warrants, such as Allegheny County or Somerset County, that's not a 15-minute ride. And generally speaking, we have to send 2 deputies out to those locations to pick these people up.
So you're talking about Garrett County, you're talking about a 3-4 hour ride, depending on the weather. This time of year, you might have a lot of snow. 3 hours up, 4 hours up, an hour there to process and get the prisoner, and then bring he or she back, and then start the process of seeing an attorney before going to the commissioner. And then, if the prisoner transport officers aren't available, then we have to take that prisoner down to the detention center all the way in Annapolis. So it can be a very lengthy process.
So what you're talking about, Garrett County, you and I have to go get them. That's 2 deputies taking up about 8 hours in travel time alone. So they're done for the day. Can't make any more arrests.
1 arrest, 1 warrant.
Yep.
And we get 1,000 new warrants a month. So that's how these things pile up, especially when they don't show up for court. Now let's talk about the Motor Vehicle Administration. We have an agreement with the Motor Vehicle Administration that after a warrant is 30 days old, the Motor Vehicle Administration sends that wanted person a letter giving them an additional 14 days, 2 weeks, to turn themselves in before their license is suspended and their tags are flagged and revoked. That tends to generate people to come in and take care of their warrants to avoid having their license suspended or their tags flagged. What's another hook we have?
Another hook we have is the use of social media.
Absolutely.
Facebook, Twitter. We have our website, the Sheriff's Office website. Those are all great, valuable tools. We got a lead right before I came in here this afternoon. You and I were at lunch. Got a lead, and we made an arrest at district court about an hour ago.
Oh, good. Now, another thing, as you've heard me talk about before, several years ago, we came up with an idea that said, if you had an outstanding arrest warrant for you in Anne Arundel County, and you were due a Maryland state tax return, we passed a law that said you do not get your return until your warrant has been taken care of. Not guilt or innocence in court, but have your warrant taken care of, either by turning yourself in or working with your attorney in the state's attorney's office to have it withdrawn. That has proven to be very successful to the point now where it's a statewide law, piloted first here in Anne Arundel County, and that has caused a lot of people to turn themselves in and clear up their outstanding warrants. Hence, another hook in the water.
It's been a great tool. Another thing that we're doing is the use of this program itself. The Sheriff's Most Wanted program has been a very useful tool. When the sheriff says, please call us, your leads are important, he's not kidding. We get a lot of tips based off this TV show, and I want to thank Dale and some other people for allowing us to do that.
Appreciate that. Now, future initiatives. What do we have in store to try to enhance our efforts to again, reduce these number of warrants? It's an idea that I came up with. It's a very crude idea. I ride motocross at Travis Pastrana's house, and I hurt my knee like everyone else does over there, and I hurt my knee and tore my ACL. And as a result, I was going to physical therapy for my knee, as you know, and one day, while I was going to work, I got a text message on my phone from the therapist office reminding me of my therapy later on that day, which I had forgotten. And I saw that and I said, what a good idea. I wonder if this could be used as a tool to remind people that they have court. And so you and I have had numerous conversations. We have a meeting again this Friday with the Chief Judge of the Maryland District Courts, Mr. Judge John Morsey. And we've already talked to the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention. We've pitched this idea to them. And so now we have some logistics to work through with the courts to try to get software from the courts to talk to an outside vendor. And we want to notify people of their court date, 7 days out, 5 days out, 3 days out, and 1 day out, reminding them they have court.
Be it email or text message.
Email, text message, or even an electronic phone call to a home number if need be. So we think that's going to be a valuable tool. As we were told by the Governor's Office of Crime Control and Prevention, who want to fund this, by the way, and pilot this in Anne Arundel County, they said this will change the face of the criminal justice system if we ever implement this. So we are hoping, we have our fingers crossed, our toes crossed, and everything else crossed, that we can get this implemented, change the face of the criminal justice system, and reduce the number of failure to appear warrants.
And I firmly believe that the 70% of these warrants that I'm talking about here, you can't tell me that every one of these people are really actually trying to run for us. People are busy. Their schedules, they have children, they have work, things like that. It slips their mind, oh my gosh, I forgot court yesterday. Oh no, there's going to be a warrant for me now. They're worried they're going to get locked up, things of that nature. This should help tremendously if we can pull this off.
And you and I have said this a million times that a lot of these people, like you said, are not intentionally missing court, but some people just don't live off of their calendar like you and I do. And I live off my calendar, and I still forgot about my therapy on that particular day. Thanks to that text message, I went and was reminded of it. But like I've said before jokingly, that they don't have that cork board in their kitchen and their wife saying, honey, remember you have court this afternoon at 9 or tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock in Glenmurray District Court. So, and hence, like you said, they end up missing court and a warrant's issued.
So what we're going to try to do also, we just started developing this program just last week. We're going to collaborate with the State's Attorney's Office, the Sheriff's Office, the State's Attorney's Office, the Office of the Public Defenders, and the Circuit and District Courts to try to eliminate some of these misdemeanor FTA warrants. Because again, what I just said, I truly mean that I don't think most of these people are bad people. They forget. So what we're going to try to do is come up with a day or days to meet, and this is still in flux. I just sent an email to the administrative judge of the Circuit Court, Laura Kiesling, right before I came here today. What we're going to try to do is have a day or days to come either to District Court or Circuit Court. If you have an FTA misdemeanor warrant for you, you would come in, one of our people, the deputy sheriff, would verify the warrant. You would then be immediately referred to the public defender's office, who's going to be on site. He's going to agree to represent you. At that point, he's going to say to the state's attorney, I have this person I'm representing. Can we drop the FTA warrant?
Who is also on site?
Somebody from Wes Adams' staff, if not Wes himself, will be on site. They will agree to dropping the charges, getting rid of the FTA charge. You'll still have to answer for the original charge. Like, let's say you FTA'd on a destruction of property charge. You have to come back to court for that another day. You'll get a court summons for that date when you turn yourself in. But we'll be able to get rid of probably 99% of the people that come in that day will walk home that day. It would have to be something really extraordinary for them to be held that day. And with the public defender there, state's attorney's office there, I think it'd be a real good program. Don't have a date yet, still in flux, but I think it'll work.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. Now, this has been done in D.C.
Similar program was in D.C., and a similar program was done in Baltimore City. This is kind of like a combination of the two.
Okay. And it's some type of amnesty, really, because you come in, you avoid that arrest on your FTA charge. Like you said, that is now taken care of with the agreement that we're going to give you a court date. You got to show up now for your original crime.
And the thing to keep in mind, if you have a warrant for you, no matter where you are or what you're doing, you could get locked up at any second. You and your family could be going to your mother's house for dinner or going to a cookout, or you could be at work. You get pulled over or you get pulled over at any time. How embarrassing is that going to be? Dad's getting cuffed up, mom's getting cuffed up, and what's going to happen? Or we could go to your workplace and lock you up. So, especially FTA warrants, if you have one, I'm stressing to you, we can implement these programs, participate in it.
Great. So as that transpires, when we get the court dates and we get that whole thing worked out for that last program you're talking about, we're going to publicize that greatly.
Yes.
And so I think what I like, though, is that, you and I are always thinking, and there's always a hook in the water. We're always thinking of another hook to put in the water to reduce these number of warrants. And I think with these combined efforts, with our vigorous approach to this, it has already made a difference, hopefully a bigger difference.
I totally agree.
Great. So, folks, I also want to kind of remind you to watch next month's show. Next month, as you may have seen in the newspaper and online, we are getting a new canine in the sheriff's office. And Deputy Jason Jett has canine Grim right now. Grim's retiring. Jason's getting a new dog. And we want the elementary students of Anne Arundel County, grades 1 through 5 or K through 5, public school, private school, homeschool, doesn't matter to us, but we are searching for names for our new puppy. And it's actually not a puppy, but for our new canine to take Grim's place. So as of today, today's January 31st, today's the final day for submissions. I have received over 1,000 submissions from students throughout Anne Arundel County. And next month, we're going to have the winning student or students on this show, grades 1K through 5 or K through 6, and have them on this show. We're going to give them a little award. Part of their award is going to be to appear on this show. And we're making a big deal out of it. And it's really cool. Like I was telling you today at the office, some of these schools have really gone to extremes with this contest, sending me letters, pictures, just what the name they come up with, why they want that particular name or what that name means, and it's really been cool to see.
I know one thing: you and Jason are going to be very busy tomorrow.
Yeah. So, starting tomorrow, Deputy Jason Jett and I will be searching through all 1,000 and some names and pinpointing what the name of our canine is going to be. So stay tuned for next month's show as well. So, folks, I want to thank a few people that allowed this show to happen every single month. First, our County Executive, Mr. Steve Shue. The man behind the camera, my buddy, Mr. Dale Boyer. From my office, who puts the show together every single month, Lieutenant Jennifer Gilbert Duran. Also want to thank Chiefs of Police Altamari and Pristoop from Anne Arundel County and Annapolis City. I want to thank Colonel Rick Tabor for being on the show. Folks, let's keep Anne Arundel County safe. I'm Sheriff Ron Bateman, and we'll see you next time on Anne Arundel's Most Wanted.